this episode of the Whisky and Things podcast, we're talking about rock bands and musical artists who have released their own whiskies,
including Motorhead and Scorpions. They both have branded single malt releases from Swedish distiller Mackmyra, and we'll be tasting with the help of brand ambassador and our good friend Richard McKeand.
As always, you can find some more whiskey-based content, still images, and moving pictures in the form of videos, etc., on all our social media platforms at Whisky and Things Podcast on Instagram and at Whisky and Things on Facebook and Twitter.
And please, if you enjoy this episode, hit that share button, click rate, review, or subscribe on your favourite podcast platform. Cheers!
You're listening to Whisky and Things with Nick Kent and Dave Giles.
Welcome to Whisky and Things. I am Dave Giles.
And I'm Nick Kent. Welcome, everybody.
Now, we have recorded this a while back. If you're listening to this, we don't know when this is going out. But this is one of our, those episodes that we figured we'd have in the bank for days when we may need a week off.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen, It won't be too far ahead, but...
sometimes we're doing this weekly. Sometimes we want a break, but we don't want to not have a podcast out.
No, we don't want to let you down. We don't want to let you down.
Aren't we,
everyone?
saints? We are saints, Nick.
Aren't we nice?
It's incredible. It's incredible the generosity that the two of us give our listeners.
We are saints today, talking about whiskies released by maybe sinners.
But very nice.
Or maybe not. Probably not.
Very nice.
All nice people. Yeah, we're talking about band whiskies, like rock band whiskies this week. Tasting a couple.
Or musicians.
Yeah, there's a couple in there we can not talk about when we're talking about musical whiskies. Da, 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 da. Guys and dolls.
Is that about whiskey? Is it Guys and Dolls? God, you can tell you've been working in musical theatres when your natural thing to do there was sing Guys and Dolls.
No, but I don't think that's actually in there. I went to see Guys and Dolls, and I was waiting the whole time to hear that song, Guys and Dolls, we're just a whole bunch of guys and dolls, and it wasn't in there. I think I got it off an old Simpsons episode. Anyway, that was.
I think you're right.
Intro.
I think you're right.
It was one with Luke Skywalker in it, or Mark Hamill as he cameoed. They did the Guys and Dolls thing, and I swear they were singing Guys and Dolls.
I mean, there is a song in it called Guys and Dolls, isn't there?
Probably. That wasn't in the one I saw. That was, yes. I went with past guest Racky Plews.
Oh, good old Racky.
Her sister was doing the Wigs in the West End.
What episode was that, Nick?
11? It was early.
11?
11?
I'm going to now check. I'm going to now check and see what episode it was and see if you were right or wrong.
Please stand by.
Guys and Dolls. Everybody's talking. Oh, mate, you were close. It's 12. Really close. Really, really close there. Yeah. Anyway, bands and whiskey. So essentially it's merchandising or collaborations that some musical acts might want to do a whiskey. Now, I would like to do a whiskey, but in my mind, it's just going to be impossibly expensive to do. So most of these acts are quite big. But this episode was inspired by the fact that our friends at Mackmyra, in particular Richard McKeand, produced two of these whiskies. There's one for the band Motorhead and one for the band Scorpions. And we happened to get our hands on a couple of these. So we thought we'd ask Richard to come on and talk us through these two collaborations, how they came about, and do a little bit of a tasting. Then we're going to talk a bit more about other bands.
Yes.
So...
and musicians.
Without any more of us riffing and raffing and any other kind of word you want to put in there, here is our pre-recorded interview with Richard McKeand.
Dave's a musician.
Apparently I'm a songwriter. Apparently I know words.
Riffing and raffing.
Yeah, riffing and raffing. Welcome back, Richard McKeand. Thanks very much for joining us. So today we're going to be talking about these two whiskies you sent us ages ago. And one of them is branded for the band Scorpions, and the other one is branded for the band Motorhead. So how did Mackmyra end up becoming a custodian for band whiskey merch?
There's lots of Swedish musicians, as we know, in the world, and I think Mickey D, being from Sweden, of Motorhead and now of Scorpions, I think there was an easy, simple connection for them to find a suitable Swedish company. And I think he was a fan of ours to begin with, so was keen to do something with us. But that's basically how it came about. Brands for Fans contacted us, contacted them, and said, let's make something happen.
Brands for Vans. It's weird because I hire my vans from Vans for Bands, and that's just
I was thinking that just now.
Yeah.
I was like, is that the same?
Well, just yeah.
It's really branched out, hasn't he?
Yeah. Nice one, Tarrant. Anyway, so let's delve into the Scorpions one first. So when was this originally released?
This was 2018 that was released. It was a couple of years in the making, but 2018 was when it came out.
And what can we expect from it? So the thing that surprised me when I looked at it was, number one, with this bottle, it didn't have the Mackmyra cork on, whereas the Motorhead one does. And secondly, it was 40% ABV rather than 46.1, which we've always had before with our Mackmyra. It doesn't really even say Mackmyra on the bottle. You have to hunt to find it. So were you worried about that side of things, or were you supposed to be kind of silent partners?
Well, I don't know if it's quite as far as being silent partners, because we made a big noise when it came out ourselves. But yeah, this is mostly focused on the band themselves. That's it. This is their product that we've made for them. In partnership with, but they're the front men, basically, of it.
Nice. I like what you did there.
Not bad. Yeah. But 40% wise, so I think the because both this and the Motorheads are both 40% ABV, and no one has said this to me per se, but my understanding of it is at both occasions they were very involved in selecting the cast and talking to Angela about what they wanted it to be like. And I think, I don't want to generalise too much, but musicians backstage, these guys in particular, probably drink a fair amount of, whiskey, whether or not it's theirs or something they've bought after a show or maybe before a show, who knows, for a loosener. So 40%, I think, is you can drink more at 40% than you can at 46. So I think they were looking for something that was suited to their tastes, not just something they thought would sell well. It wanted to be something they enjoyed themselves, and I think they're used to drinking 40% ABV whiskey. That is my educated guess about
makes
why.
Sense.
It's accessible as well to their guests as well backstage, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Was a lot of this stuff, was a lot of it made, or was it kind of limited release?
So I don't know how many bottles of Scorpions we made, actually. I know with Motorhead, I think we're on the 7th and final edition.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so the Motorheads come out in batches, basically, and the Scorpions, I'm not entirely sure, but there'd have been a good few thousand of this made.
Right.
The thing that pokes out to me here is cherry cask. I haven't had a cherry cask whiskey, so
I don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
Right. So it's cherry wine casks from Kirsch, Kirsch, Kirsch. Cherry wine producers in Germany, which is where obviously Scorpions are from Hanover, and that's an element of the recipe that's gone into this. So it's ex-bourbon Oloroso sherry casks, and then some of the whiskey has been finished and spent a good amount of time, but finished in ex-cherry wine casks.
Okay, that makes sense.
And with it, it brings this sort of sweetness to it.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I'm having a smell. I'm trying to get the air to flow over the whiskey. I'm expecting some winds of change, or maybe it will rock me like a hurricane. The more air that flows over the top, I'm just waving some air over the top. Anyway,
you've only got two. You only got 2 puns. You got any more?
That's all I got. They're the only 2 songs you wrote down.
That's funny. Yeah, that's the only ones I put on the list. He rolls out of bed, steals my research for a
It's
pun.
all in the delivery, though, Nick. It's all in the delivery.
He got in there first.
Perfect timing, yeah. If you look at some of the press releases for this that came out around the time, there were a few puns in there from previous songs of theirs that I would say were very much crowbarred into it. It seemed to me, so not done with the finesse that you used just then.
Right. I like that because our favourite rock bar was called the Crowbar as well. Anyway,
yeah.
Okay, on the nose, I am getting that kind of fruitcake cherry kind of vibe to it. There is a sweetness in there.
There is. I'm having a nose.
But those cocktail cherries kind of thing, I can smell that. I don't know if that's only because I'm looking at the word cherry cask and thinking I should be able to smell cherries. I'm not sure if I'd not seen that, would I be saying that? Not sure. There's a spiciness to it as well. There's a bit of pepper in there on the nose.
Yeah, the sweetness you can get off the nose.
And yeah, it's definitely sweet.
There, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You tasted it yet, Nick?
I had a bit last night. I'm going to have a bit now.
Classic Kent.
Research. It's just research for the show.
Well, it's a photo shoot. I had to take the publicity photos. And then you've got to have a picture of it in the Glencairn. Cheers. And that's coming. I've got to say, though, this bottle, it's beautiful to look at. If you're taking photos of it, it's not a joy because it's black and shiny. And if you shine any light on it, it's a nightmare. But it is a beautiful bottle. But yeah, on the palate for me, my first impressions were the cherry lockets, so cherry menthol.
Oh, yeah.
And also a bit of black cherry yogurt as well. So I am getting the cherry through as well as the kind of, the sweetness of, regular kind of Oloroso stuff. But yeah, cherry lockets was a big one.
Cherry lockets, I think, is a great shout. For me, icing sugar and dark berries and cherries for me on the palate. Yeah.
Yes, I'm definitely getting the bourbon notes as well. I'm not sure about you, but there's definitely that element in there as well.
I'm really loving this. I was a bit afraid of this one, to be honest. I thought it might be a bit sweet, and because I haven't seen any other cherry wine casks like releases from anyone. I was thinking, is this nice? Have the Scorpions just gone, that sounds weird and different. We're going to do it weird and different because we're a band, and it might have been not great, but I'm really enjoying this. I'm really, really enjoying this.
We've been talking about the sweet side of it, but there's still the Mackmyra character there. I think here, for me, the cherry casks are probably at the forefront of it, but there is that balance in the background. I've spoken to you guys, several times in the past about trying to achieve balance of things, and that some of those sort of orchard fruit flavors and taste you can get here for sure. That's part of our spirit character that's coming through, and that's got an element that's a sort of a sweeter side of things, I guess, but not quite as far as the cherry wine sweetness. But it's not. This isn't a liqueur. This isn't a sweet whiskey. It's just something that's got a whiskey with some sweetness to it.
For sure. Yeah, very much enjoyed that.
Sláinte.
I want to now move on to the Motorhead one while the flavours are kind of fresh, because I want to see if there's what the noticeable differences are. Now, obviously, on the eyes, this one is considerably darker. It's probably one of the darkest whiskies that's not a bourbon I've ever seen.
What's this on my chart? This is near the end. This is almost this is a brown sherry on my colour chart here. But it's gorgeous. This has the Mackmyra lid.
It does.
Which I'm liking.
The lid. I like that.
You can tell it's the third whiskey of today. And this is in, I would say, the more usual Mackmyra bottle shape as well. And the Scorpions was in a slightly different bottle. A bit taller, a bit slender, as it were. What's the... How's this one sound?
Oh, nice.
Took a while to have a squeak.
So with the colouring, obviously it's a lot darker than other Mackmyras I've seen as well. Did you have to add some colouring into this? Was that something the band wanted? Something really dark? Is that what we're getting here?
I'll answer that and then I'll explain it, and I'll say yes.
Right. Okay.
Some E150 caramel colouring was added to it. The reason for it, and because we tried not to do it, and in fact, I think we've got maybe 2 whiskies in our entire portfolio that have got colouring added to them. Everything for us is about natural colour, but with this, the band were very heavily involved in creating this from start to finish. So they came over, all of them came over, met Angela Drazio, our master blender. They toured the distillery, they walked the warehouses, sampling casks, discussing, the sort of thing that they were looking for, the sort of profile they'd like. And it was about 3 years before a final whiskey was decided upon, and lots of samples going back and forth, and various different little things and versions that Angela was working on. The final recipe that they decided upon, when the sample that actually Mickey D, the drummer, Swedish Mickey D, walked into the studio, I think when they were recording Bad Magic, their last album, walked into the studio and said, right, here's this sample. They all tried it. Lemmy himself tried it and said, this one's great. So they liked it. So he liked the flavor. He liked, and they all agreed this is the right one after lots of different things coming back and forth. The recipe that they chose was whiskey that had spent 5 years in virgin American oak casks, and then 6 months being finished in Oloroso sherry casks. So when you use a virgin wood of any kind, you're going to draw out lots of colour from that wood, and especially 5 years in something as well. So it was already very dark from the American oak casks that it had been in. And then, further darkness and colour being drawn from 6 months in Oloroso casks, as you would imagine that would happen. But so even then, and Angela, when we spoke about this and we had our sort of meetings about this whiskey some time ago, said that it was a really, really, really dark whiskey already. And Nick, you said this is far darker than the other Mackmyras that you've seen, and that was the case as it was. But it just wasn't quite dark enough for the guys, and for Lemmy in particular, from what I've heard. And obviously a big fan of Jack Daniels, which is a very dark whiskey. He knew what he wanted it to look like. He knew what he wanted it to be, and said, I like this flavor profile, but I'd like it darker. The only way to get it darker naturally would be to mature things for longer in those casks, but then you end up with a whiskey that's a different profile to the one that they loved and the one that they wanted to go forward with. So colouring had to be added to it, basically, just to get it to that level. It's tasteless. You shouldn't be able to sort of detect that there's any in there, but there is some present. We get our ex-bourbon casks and our American oak casks from the Brown Foreman cooperage in America, which was once the Bluegrass cooperage, who supply casks to all sorts of different distilleries across America. But probably most notably, in my humble opinion, would be Woodford Reserve. And then also they would supply Jack Daniels with their casks. And obviously I think, Jack Daniels and Lemmy are sort of synonymous with one another.
Yes.
So, the fact that I think that may have played some part in the reason why he liked this so much. And that's the one they selected because it's got, the casks are the same casks that Jack Daniels would have been in.
Yeah, and they're virgin oak as well. They're not ex-bourbon, which a lot of Scotch and a lot of other people use. They are virgin oak, which is what bourbon has to use. So exactly. That's the flavour profile he was picking out.
So that's what when they were having their deliberations and consultations with Angela and talking about what they wanted to have, and the end product was they wanted something that was had a big bourbon feel to it, because that's what they like. And as I said with Scorpions, they want something that they like themselves, because so they want to be able to drink it and enjoy it, not just to sell it. So bourbon influence is really important. If you use ex-bourbon casks, you will get some bourbon influence for sure. I mean, obviously, but if you want something that's got a real bourbon influence and a real bourbon kick to it, there's no better way of getting that than by maturing it in the casks that bourbon would have gone into or would go into, and gets its flavour from and its profile from, at least in large part. So it's natural choice.
I don't mind it. A lot of people might get a bit snobby, if like whiskey drinkers, if you know what I mean, about there being colouring in there and all that kind of thing. But this is kind of aimed at, it's a plus that it's a good whiskey. I had a taste of this last night. It's a single malt. It's a good whiskey. It's got a bit of colouring in there and stuff to get the look. But the market for this is not your normal whiskey drinker, maybe. It is the people who are fans of Motorhead. So
Motorhead had to have they had to have a dark whiskey, didn't you? You can't, if you're Motorhead, you can't be selling anything that doesn't look like Jack Daniels in the glass, because it just wouldn't be right. And I like the fact that they spent so long trying to get that right with the flavour profile they liked as well, because I talk about this a lot as someone who, as a musician, sells stuff. If you are passionate about it, if it's something that you like, it's easier to sell. And worst case scenario, you drink or eat it all. That's the great thing. So I think that's...
Dave Giles' brand barbecue sauce is amazing, though.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, well, all out. And I didn't even get much of it. It's great. Not because I had it all. But anyway.
I was going to say, it wasn't just selecting what the whiskey was as well, and the actual liquid itself, from designing the label, that all of them, and Lemmy in particular, from what I've heard, had some really strong feelings on what the label should look like, and the raw pig be there, and what the whole label back to front should be. I think this is something, and they've all liked it. This, as you said, if you like it, it's easier to talk about it, and you can be more sincere when you're doing it as well. It's a genuine thing. You're not selling it anymore. You're talking about something that you're passionate and enthusiastic about.
Especially when this is, for a band, this is an expensive bit of merchandise as well. Like this isn't a band T-shirt for 15, 20 quid. This is a 60 quid bottle of whiskey. So it wants to be good, but really wants to be associated with what you don't just want to throw a label on the front of any old random bottle of whiskey. You want to have that legitimacy, I guess, that actually this is part of us. This is something that we wanted to do. And I think you'll sell more of it as a result of that. My marketing head on, that's how I'm thinking.
No, but that's right. I think, and this to add a bit of weight to how much they believed in it, and Lemmy himself in particular. I think this there was a bottle of this on the altar at his funeral.
Well, there you go.
So, this is something he was incredibly proud of.
Yeah, on the nose. It does have that bourbon vibe to it, doesn't it? I mean, you've got the vanillas in there. The spiciness,
bit of orange, bit of dried orange.
Yeah, that buttered popcorn kind of vibe in there as well.
That's a good one. Yeah,
fruity. Yeah, dark fruits.
Yeah,
maybe said.
If you were to put this in front of me and say, "Smell that," what kind of whiskey it is? I would probably say it's a bourbon. This is some kind of odd bourbon, but let me try it. Oh wow, that's really buttery.
It is buttery. You're right. You get kind of a nutty vibe to it as well.
Yes.
Oh, there's something else there. Hang on, I'm going in again.
Oh, this is great. This is really great. Sorry, Scorpions. I think I prefer the Motorhead one.
Oh, it tastes dark. This is nice. We didn't talk about the price for Scorpions. How much are these two bottles?
Scorpions, I think you should be able to find for £70 there or thereabouts, and Motorhead is you'll be able to find between £60 and £70, depending on where you go.
This is really, really nice.
Which one do you prefer, Nick?
I prefer the lighter Scorpions whiskey. I like that cherry vibe because it's a bit different. The cherry wine in there. I just love a locket. No, but yeah, for me,
did you have a lot of sore throats as a kid? Did you?
No, I didn't. I wish I had more. Did you ever see Motorhead live, Richard?
Unfortunately not. No, I grew up with a father who used to put them on in the car on camping trips and road trips here and there. Yeah. So I've grown up on them, but yeah, never managed to get anywhere. No.
I did a festival with them, Nick.
So did I.
Wow.
Gilfest 2009. My old band, the Rileys.
Download Festival 2005.
All right, that's a bit better, that one, isn't it?
I'm going to take that. I trump you on that one.
Yeah.
Gilfest is still a bit of fun to be had at Gilfest. I saw Madness headlining there, I think in maybe 2005 or something, a long time ago.
Not sure it's still going on, but they did have some eclectic lineups. They'd always have some good bands on there.
It was always a good one if you could get on it. I didn't play Gilfest, I don't think. No, I can't remember. It was all a blur. The Motorhead way, It was a 30th anniversary the year I played with them. I remember that. Wow. But was this actually for an anniversary, this whiskey, originally?
It's on the bottle. A unique whiskey specially distilled and aged in the darkest of mine shafts to celebrate 40 years of the loudest rock and roll band to grace our ears.
We should really read the bottle more. What I love about these is a lot of kind of maybe like branded stuff with people outside whiskey, be it like fighters or this, that and the other. They could just phone it in, or they could ask you to phone it in and make the cheapest thing possible, do a blend, do something really simple, whack the branding on there, whack the price up and made a load of money. But this is single malt whiskey with, I'm guessing Angela's involved, a load of different casks, really complicated. As you said, they went through a load of different options before they wanted, how many years? What, 2-3 years?
Three years. Yeah, three years.
They've come out with a product they really care about. They could have just, waxed anything out, and let's be face it, Motorhead fans would have probably bought it. But they're getting something really nice. Really good. Really nice.
Yeah, it's good. Nick, were you just having a dig at Conor McGregor there?
A little bit.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought I picked up on that. Yeah, I won't tell him.
If I get a knock on the door,
I'll tweet him later.
Is he your best bud, is he?
Any fitness or fighting capability I had is long gone now that lockdown bod is in place, so I'm going to sit this one out and let you guys go.
Lockdown bod.
Have you had it then, Dave? Have you enjoyed it? Or
what, Connor's whiskey?
Yeah.
No, not at all. I've got no interest in it at all.
I tried it.
And it's rubbish, is it?
It's all right. It's a very young Irish whiskey.
Have you had the Sinatra Select?
Yeah, I have. Richard, have you?
No.
Did Frank? Did that come out after Frank died? Do you know?
A long time after. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's not like it was done with his blessing kind of thing, or with him. Yeah, it's a shame.
Maybe his estate. Yeah. It is nice though. He can't argue about it.
I'm trying to think of other examples where someone's put their name on a bottle of whiskey and it actually be good. Because the Sinatra Select is good, so that's why I was saying that. I
mean, Bob Dylan makes his. I want to try that. Heaven's Door. He has like a rye and a couple of others I'd really like to try. Metallica do, and they got a legendary guy to actually make it and blend it. You might know that, Richard. Who's the guy who made Blackened?
Probably awful.
No, apparently it's great. The guy that got to make it was...
Everything Metallica do is awful.
Absolutely not. Yeah. I will fight you. I will fight you.
With what? Well, I'll get Conor McGregor on my side.
Will you?
Hilarious.
Dave Pickerell, his name was. The guy did the Blackened whiskey. Very, very respected. And apparently it's very nice.
You see it more with beers, don't you? People too do, probably because it's cheaper and easier than doing a whiskey, I guess. But you had the Iron Maiden beer, and I mean even Frank Turner's had his own beer. Plenty of people have done beers. You don't see it as much with whiskies, probably because we've looked into it, Nick. It's complicated. It's hard.
Yeah. And you need an established band who've been around for a while.
Yeah, to invest in as much as you need to get a decent product and to make it affordable, that's going to be tough.
Definitely. You need that established fan base as well. You can't just release one album and then have a whiskey out.
Yeah. I'll do 50 bottles of whiskey. It doesn't really work like that, does it?
I've just thought of one actually that I probably should have thought of a moment ago, but I've only got such a small amount of it that I drink it very sparingly. But we did do a whiskey with a Swedish band called Mando Dio, which was a single cask selection of ours. So that's it. I mean, I'm showing you a picture now, which is useless to anyone that's listening to this, but that's they selected a single cask of ours to put their name on, and bottled it in our sort of our typical private cask 50 cl bottles. That's a 200 litre ex-bourbon cask, again from the Bluegrass cooperage, Brown-Forman cooperage, with our smoky recipe in there. Right. So our smoky spirit has gone into that. And I think it's 8.5 years old, which is a really good sweet spot for our peated whiskey in 200 litre bourbon casks. And, this is a good whiskey. But
so how many bottles are in a single cask?
Well, for this one, there were 396 50 cl bottles.
Right.
So that's I'll let you guys do the maths perhaps and add that in at some point. Maybe just cut over the top with it. But it depends how old a single cask is. It depends where in the world it's been maturing. Some countries and climates have incredibly fast angel share rates. So you lose whiskey very quickly and rapidly. From a 200 litre 12-year-old whiskey in Scotland, I don't know, 170 bottles?
I think it's about bottles. That, isn't it? Yeah.
180, 185 maybe.
If you're bottling in cask strength, then for sure. Yeah, it's just it interested me in the sense of you've still got to have a decent sized fan base. Bear in mind, not everyone's going to want a bottle of whiskey. If you've got 500 people that buy everything, they're not all going to necessarily want to buy a 50, 60, 70 quid bottle of whiskey. And you need to have a profit as a band. You need to have a profit margin on top of that as well, on top of what you require. So yeah, these things aren't easy to do as musicians trying to merchandise things. So yeah, but I love the fact that both of these examples we've got here are really good.
They are really good.
They stand up. If they didn't have the band labels on, and you just like taste tested them, you'd walk away going, they're really good whiskies. What are they? Oh, that's the Motorhead whiskey. What? Yeah. Their own whiskey was that good? I think it would surprise a lot of people. Same with the Scorpions one. Sorry as well. I just used Motorhead because my preferred one.
It's in your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm loving those.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Anyway, so musicians and whiskey. I mean, because there's a lot of connections there, isn't there? So it's no surprise that these two have done it, and maybe more of the bigger bands or bigger artists should consider doing it. And is it an area that Mackmyra would like to do more of, or was it hard work?
I think there's a lot of work that goes into it, but Angela said specifically, this is a dream come true, especially when it came to working with Motorhead. I think she'd been listening and buying their albums for some time. So I think it's something. She's a hard worker and a character, so I think she can stand up quite well to working with people who are of a similar disposition, perhaps we should say, and musicians and things as well. So she'll. I think I wouldn't rule out doing things in the future, but I don't know about anything in the pipeline.
Right. Well, thanks again for joining us, Richard. It's always a pleasure having you on. Fourth time. Fourth time. Yeah. Definitely the winner there. We'll speak to you again soon.
Cheers.
You're listening to Whiskey and Things.
Well, I know I said it in the interview, Nick, but that Motorhead one for me was just delightful.
It was. I've enjoyed both. I like the little cherry note in the Scorpion, and the Motorhead is something very drinkable as well. I have some right now, everyone, having a little recap.
Yeah, absolutely delightful.
Got a little molasses. I didn't put that in there, like a molasses thing.
What's a molasses?
We've done the tasting. It's like a dark sugar. Anyway.
Oh, right. You can, as always, hear the full, watch the full uncut video of that interview and tasting with Richard McKeand on our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/whiskey and things. Please do go and check that out.
Indeed. And you can find out more about Mackmyra at mackmyra.com and .co.uk, and at Mackmyra UK and at Mackmyra on Instagram and Twitter. And I'll link their YouTube channel in the description and all those other links as well. Because
absolutely,
there's loads of fun to be had in the Mackmyra world.
Anyway, Nick, I want to start talking about bands who do whiskey, so sting me.
You're listening to Whiskey and Things.
Okay, so as usual, Nick has done a whole load of research. I just kind of didn't know anything about this, and Nick has put together a comprehensive list here. Now, most of these are hard rock bands, Nick. Or heavy rock bands.
They are. Whiskey seems to be a hard rock thing.
Now, I know you like your hard rock. Does that mean you just didn't research other kind of genres of music and other musicians? Or is this literally what there is?
This is kind of what there is. I put musician or band whiskies in when I was doing my research. And some maybe some, say, online rock magazine, they already made like a list. And I'd maybe taken little lists from everywhere. And but yeah, a lot of these are hard rock acts. And
I think that kind of makes sense as well in terms of a lot of these acts associate themselves with drinking whiskies or bourbons and things. So it does kind of make sense, doesn't it?
I found one it was released by Drake, but I don't think it was like Drake whiskey. These are kind of often branded and very much pushed to be, branded whiskies, as it were.
Right.
Sometimes it's just they may own one or do a collaboration, but it's not like these which are branded Scorpions. Motorhead, the one we're going to talk about, Metallica, it's blackened, it's named after one of their songs. It's very much, branded with the artist's merchandise. I've just punched something with the artist logo and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I remember we talked about blackened before. I think it was when we had Few on, or when we talked about Few, or was it Michter's? I can't remember.
Yeah, this is let's talk about Blackened first. We touched on it a little bit in the interview there. Yeah, Metallica released one called Blackened, and it's a marriage of bourbons and ryes, and then finished in black brandy casks.
Black brandy? I've never even heard of black brandy.
Yeah, but the reason why Dave brought up Michter's there, or few, I can't remember, I went back and tried to look, is the fact they use they call it black noise, where once it's being finished in the black brandy casks, they put it in a room and then he blasts it with sound, low frequency sound, to kind of agitate the liquid inside the casks so it takes more flavour and colour out of the wood. But in the case of Metallica's whiskey, they're playing Metallica set lists to the casks in this room. So obviously a heavy band, lots of low frequencies, all that kind of stuff. So every batch of 5,000 has a different playlist. So when you buy your bottle, you receive that playlist with it, or you can listen to it on Spotify and all that kind of thing. So it's pretty, it's quite fun. Again, we kind of talked about it in the interview with Richard as well. You could just make a shit whiskey and then whack a band name on it and put it out, and the fans are going to buy it. But, Metallica got a guy called Dave Pickerell involved, who's a bit of a legend in the industry. Just a little bit of background on him. He was at Maker's Mark for 14 years, where he was the corporate vice president and master distiller. And after that, he left and started a consulting firm where he advised over 100 distilleries. He's known as the founding father of the craft distilling movement and the Johnny Appleseed of craft distilling as well. He's at Whistle Pig and, a load of other distilleries. Sadly died in November 2018, just after they released the Blackened whiskey. So it's like his last project. But apparently it's really nice. So I really want to try it. But it's bloody expensive in the UK. It's $40 to $70 in the US. If you want one in the UK, you're talking about 100 quid.
Yeah, that's expensive.
That's not even like one with a gift box, because you can get a gift box with vinyl and all kinds of stuff. But it's a lot of fun. I would love one, but a lot of dough.
It was Michter's.
Was it? There you go. Yeah.
It was Michter's, because the George Washington thing, Nick. The George Washington distillery. That's that at Mount Vernon. It reminds me of that. Anyway,
because Dave Pickerell had a hand in that. Mm.
Mate, that's really expensive. Anything else more in my price range, perhaps, from other bands?
Let's keep it heavy. Again, I don't know if you can get it in the UK. You probably can, but it's probably more expensive. Slipknot.
Oh my God,
I love Slipknot. Yeah, they've got two whiskies out.
Right, two bands I don't like. Go.
I love both those bands. Number 9, Iowa whiskey. You can get for about $40 if you're in the US. And number 9 Reserve, it's about $70 if you're in the US. Again, it's a collaboration between the band and Cedar Ridge Distillery. And it's a corn whiskey. I think it's mixed with a bit of rye as well. But it's Iowa corn. Not corn. Corn's another band. Slipknot are famously an Iowa band. So they've got involved with Cedar Ridge. I think are in Iowa as well. So they've kind of kept it local. Kept it a nice kind of Iowa vibe to their whole thing. I don't know what it's like. I haven't tasted it, but I would like to.
That's just made me think, though. Corn should have their own whiskey.
Corn whiskey.
Corn whiskey. Yeah. Should definitely. I mean, they've absolutely missed a trick there, haven't they? Why are they not on this list? Why are they not on this list?
I'd buy it.
Anyway, yes. Who else we got, Nick?
Alice in Chains. Do you like Alice in Chains?
I don't think I've really ever listened to them. I've probably heard songs, so I don't have an opinion either way.
Well, they've teamed up with Few Spirits. Their master distiller, Paul Heletko. I hope I pronounced that right. That's a weird spelling.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to let him go.
For a bourbon called All Secrets Known, named after the song off their 2009 record, Black Gives Way to Blue. The Few bourbon is finished for 6 months in tequila barrels.
Wow, we've not heard of that before.
No, I've heard of it. I haven't tasted or seen anything yet.
Wow.
And it's bottled, apparently, the most rock and roll of proofs, 101, which is 50.5% ABV. It's won some awards and this, that, and the other.
Hey, Nick, I know of an Irish band that have got a whiskey.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. You know the band, the Pogues?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure they've got 2 whiskies, actually.
Okay.
Well, I'm just going to... I knew of these whiskies. I did know of these whiskies, but now I'm going to read your research.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said at the top of this that I did all the research. I know you're trying to pull off as your own.
But I actually knew of this. I knew this was a thing. I knew this was a thing without you having to research it. So I think if you'd asked me,
okay,
no, I've seen this. I've seen this in bars.
Probably,
I've actually seen this in bars.
Yeah, Dave does actually go to bars. Everyone,
sometimes not in the last year and a half, but I've seen this out and about. So I didn't know anything about it, so thanks for doing some research. They had 2 whiskies out created by master whiskey maker Frank McHardy at the West Cork Distillery at the most exposed and southerly located distillery on the Atlantic, where conditions are perfect for the maturation of Irish whiskey, apparently. So yeah, they've got 2, and actually they're really good value. So you got a single malt Irish whiskey, which is £22 and 25p on the Whisky Exchange, and you've got a triple distilled Irish whiskey at £24.95. Both on the Whisky Exchange, so they're really good value. And the triple distilled Irish whiskey has won awards as well. So worth checking out. I've never tried these, but I have seen them. I hadn't seen them. Do you know their song "Dirty Old Town"? Everyone thinks it's about Dublin. It's not. It's about Salford, near you.
Yes. That was weird. Yes, I bought Danny and Naomi. No, I bought Naomi, Danny Gruff's better half.
Irish girlfriend.
I bought her some Salford rum for Christmas, and it had Dirty Old Town they have on the bottle, because they they have an old map of Salford, which is weirdly Dirty Old Town was right by where I live, which is quite weird.
It's a lot nicer than it used to be, isn't it? Since the BBC moved in.
Yes, it is. It went downhill when I moved in.
Anyway, what else you got, Nick?
Well, I'm taking it heavy again. Anthrax, another one of the big 4.
The big 4? What does that mean?
They're the big 4 thrash bands of the 80s and 90s.
Now, who are the other 3?
You got Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, and
Pantera?
Megadeth.
Right.
There you go. Anyway, Anthrax released one called The Healer, and it was a limited edition bourbon produced by Hill Rock Estate Distillery, and it was 115.6 proof. $140. That's a lot of money. Anyway, booze is a healer. So that's where it's got its name from. It's something that late Dimebag Darrell of Pantera, what a legend, would regularly say to the band when they were on tour together. If the guys arrived at soundcheck a little hungover, Dimebag would be standing there, apparently smiling like a Cheshire cat, with a shot of whiskey at the ready to make them feel better again.
Booze is a healer.
Booze is a healer. So The Healer.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think Hill Rock also involved in another Motorhead release as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Because I'm not sure whether it's happened or is going to happen. Ace of Spades, the album, the song, is turning 40. So they're releasing a brand new bourbon of the same name, collaborating with the Hill Rock Distillery, and it's limited to 1,100 bottles in total. Yes, and it's what we got here. According to the press release, cask number 1 of the bourbon is bottled at 115 proof. That's 57.8. That's strong. And there's only about 599 bottles of that. And cask 2 was bottled at 57.65%. So accurate ABV, and that's only 623. So if it's out, they've probably all sold, and if they're not, good luck getting one. But there we go. But,
see, for me, Nick, when I think of musicians and whiskey, I just think of Jack Daniels and his Frank Sinatra Select. I think it's probably the most famous musician and whiskey collaboration, right?
For some people, for me, it was Lemmy and the Jack and Coke. But if you're talking straight, maybe you're talking Sinatra. Yeah. Mainstream, probably Sinatra.
Yeah, well, my point was, obviously there are famous musicians who have drunk whiskey, but the Sinatra Select is a particular brand of whiskey which we see and we know about. Like, I knew of that, and I'd heard of the Pogues one as well, but the Pogues one isn't necessarily relevant to the band as much as, the Sinatra Select is. It definitely is. The one thing that gets me with the Frank Sinatra whiskey is annoyingly it happened after he died, right? So I find that a little bit annoying. It's a shame that they didn't think about doing this with him when he was still around, because maybe merchandising wasn't there at that point. But it's
when
great.
Did he die?
It's great. Oh, in the 90s, late 90s, I think. Yeah.
That's a Jack Daniels, of course. It is very nice. I sampled it once. We've talked about this before. When were you there for that tasting when our friend Jack Birchwood came back?
I can't remember.
You would have known. You would have known. Yes, but Jack Daniels also released a whiskey for Motorhead as well to commemorate their 40 years. But sadly, they released it or announced it just after Lemmy had died as well. Wow. That was limited to 288 bottles.
Right, so what we're saying is don't team up with Jack Daniels to make a whiskey because you may die.
I got the email in the inbox and I just not read it. But anyway, right, I saw an empty bottle and box for the Sinatra Select on sale on eBay earlier for $75.
Empty bottle.
Some people like that stuff.
They do. You turn them into lovely lamps, Nick.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should get into that.
Well, maybe we should. We should. Anyway, Bob Dylan's got whiskey, right?
Yeah, he's got 3.
Has he?
Yeah, 3 different types. He launched Heaven's Door whiskey in May 2018, teaming up with Mark Bushala. He helped create Angel's Envy, which is a lovely whiskey. Yes, to offer 3 products: a Tennessee bourbon, a double barrel, and a straight rye.
So he's actually done his own whiskey rather than teaming up with a distiller as such, kind of thing. He's almost set up his own distillery. Is that what you're saying here, or am I getting that?
I wouldn't think so. In America, a lot of people do source from certain places. So it's probably sourced, but he's worked with someone who knows what they're talking about.
So he's basically an independent bottler.
He's an independent bottler, yeah.
We love that.
Yes. In America, it's a bit different from in Scotland and all that kind of stuff. In America, they have store picks, a store, which is a lot like they used to do with the groceries, like how Johnny Walker started and all that kind of stuff. Stores in America will just go and choose a barrel and bottle it themselves, and that's called a store pick. It's pretty interesting stuff. I won't get in too much into it now, but that's kind of the same thing they've done here. They've selected some barrels from somewhere and put it out themselves as Heaven's Door. Apparently, Bushala admitted that it was a bit difficult decoding Dylan's reactions to the samples, saying, sometimes you just don't get a long look and you're not sure if that's disgust or approval. I was imagining his face.
Did you ever listen to Bob Dylan's radio show? They used to do it on Radio 2. The BBC licensed it for the UK. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
No, I think I tried to listen to it, but couldn't for some reason. Anyway, carry on. So it was good, was it?
Oh, mate, it was so good. So good. He had one of those great voices for introducing songs and telling stories. Yeah. This is the Bob Dylan Radio Hour. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. What I like about these whiskies, they incorporate Dylan's love of welding iron gates, and the designs on the bottles were actually his, that he made in his workshop and stuff.
What? Dylan?
He loves welding. He makes gates.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I did not know that about Bob Dylan.
He's got his own welding shop. Loves it.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Shall we end with the big guns? Do you want to read this one?
Oh, I think we should end with a bigger bang. No, that was the name of the Rolling Stones. Anyway, the Rolling Stones, Nick. Rolling Stones, yes, exactly. To commemorate the Rolling Stones' 50th anniversary in 2012.
I can't believe that.
It's Suntory time. Japan's Suntory Group created a unique beverage. They took existing whiskies they had made in years pertaining to momentous dates in the band history, such as their 1962 founding, the release of Exile on Mainstream, and their first visit to Japan, and blended them together. Jesus. Wow.
Only Suntory could do that.
That's amazing. Only 150 bottles molded with the Stones' tongue and lips logo. I bet that bottle goes for a lot on eBay if anyone has ever sold that bottle.
Yeah.
So only 150 made with a retail price of, and here we go. Here's the bigger bang, $6,300.
They win, don't they? They win. But was it nice? None of us will ever know.
None of us will ever know.
Yeah, it comes in a nice wooden box as well with some lovely hinge work. I love a good bit of hinge work.
Was it made by Bob Dylan? Try this hinge. Have you ever noticed that Bob Dylan and Eric Cartman sound exactly the same?
No.
Seriously.
Is it?
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Is he a sped up Bob Dylan?
Well, just seriously, listen. Next time you listen to Bob Dylan, think about Eric Cartman, and next time you watch South Park, think about Bob Dylan.
Oh dear. Okay, I will. Thank you for that little pointer. Appreciate that.
It will either ruin Bob Dylan songs for you or add a lot of different texture to Eric Cartman for you. I don't know.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
Yes,
You're welcome.
We'll be putting all the necessary links to those whiskies in the description.
Absolutely.
Some you can buy, some you can't, depending on where you are in the world or whether they are limited editions, etc.
And perhaps we may have missed some out. Perhaps Nick's research isn't as comprehensive as he likes to think. So, if you know of other bands that
there is
or
one
musicians,
from Gua, but Dave didn't know who Gua were.
I've never heard of Gua, so I don't think that
look
counts.
it up. I'll put Guas in the description. Go look it up.
They're definitely not a band.
Gua, they're from another planet.
All right. Anyway, so if anyone knows of other musicians who have their own whiskey, I know that Tom Ford is a singer-songwriter, and he was selling some whiskey glasses with a sample of whiskey, but I'm not sure what the whiskey was. But anyway, maybe other people have got experiences of musicians making whiskies. We'd love to hear it, so please let us know on social media, whether that be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or go old school and send us a letter. I don't know where you could send it to. We don't have a PO box. But anyway, we hope you've enjoyed this little look at bands who make whiskey.
Yes.
Whiskey! So that's all we have time for this week.
Yes. Coming up to our limit on time.
Again.
I don't know. This MP3 has to be 100 so megabytes.
No, it does. That's actually a good point. There is actually a limit on it.
It can't be much more than an hour. I don't think we're over that. But there is actually a limit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a limit.
More than certain bytes.
So let's round out this. We're going to wrap it up really quickly because otherwise we're going to run out of bytes. So thanks very much for listening. You've all been amazing. If you've got this far, please click the share button if you've enjoyed it. Thanks very much. And we've got one thing left to say. Cheers.
Thanks for coming. Whiskey and Things has been brought to you by And Things Productions.